Have you ever stood amidst the wreckage of your own life, feeling a silence so profound it deafens you to all hope? A silence where every whispered promise of a brighter tomorrow feels like a cruel mockery? There is a sacred, unspoken truth about the most excruciating moments of our existence. A secret that is never taught in schools, never shared in casual conversation, and is only ever revealed in the quiet aftermath of a soul-shattering storm. While you are adrift in the tempest, drowning in a sea of confusion and unspeakable pain, while every pillar of your reality crumbles into dust around you, a divine, silent intelligence is meticulously at work. It is an intelligence that does not communicate in the clumsy language of humans, an intelligence that offers no logical explanations, and one that most certainly does not ask for your permission to intervene in your destiny. It is the hand of the divine architect, sculpting you in the dark. You have felt its presence, haven't you? That inexplicable, almost eerie sensation that washes over you when you look back at a period of your life that nearly annihilated your very being. And suddenly, with a clarity that steals your breath, you realize it wasn't your destruction you were witnessing. It was your salvation. It was the very event that saved your soul. If these words stir something deep within you, a flicker of recognition in the depths of your spirit, then know that you are in the right place. Acknowledge this resonance by liking this message, subscribing for more guidance, and sharing your own story of transformation in the comments below. Let the world know you understand by simply writing, "I was being prepared." This profound realization often dawns slowly, like a sunrise after the longest, darkest night of the soul. Think back. Consider that job, the one that felt like a slow, crushing weight upon your spirit, draining the very color from your world. Day after day, it chipped away at your essence, leaving you feeling hollow, a ghost haunting the corridors of a life that was not your own. You believed it was destroying you, and in a way, it was. It was destroying the false self you had constructed, the identity you had adopted to survive in a world that didn't understand your unique frequency. And then, one day, the end came. Whether through a sudden termination, a desperate resignation, or a slow, agonizing burnout, the structure fell. In that moment of perceived failure, you were set free. The collapse of that career path forced you to ask the questions you had been too afraid to voice. What do I truly value? What sets my soul on fire? What is the unique gift I am meant to bring to this world? That devastating end was not a punishment. It was a divine course correction. It was a sacred demolition, clearing the ground of a life that was too small for your spirit, so that you could finally begin to build a life that was in true alignment with your higher self. The pain was the catalyst, the pressure that forced you to discover the unshakable diamond of your true purpose, a purpose you might never have found had you remained in the deceptive comfort of that soul-crushing routine. The universe did not punish you with that experience. It blessed you with the clarity that could only be born from such profound discontent. It was an act of profound love, designed to awaken you from a slumber you didn't even know you were in. The struggle wasn't a sign you were off track. It was the track itself, leading you back to the core of who you are. Or perhaps your great trial came in the form of love, or what you thought was love. A relationship that promised forever, a connection that you poured every ounce of your being into, only to have it shatter into a million irreparable pieces. The heartbreak was an abyss, a void that threatened to swallow you whole. The sting of solitude, the echoes of broken promises, the ghost of a shared future. It felt like a death, and in many ways, it was. It was the death of an illusion. It was the death of the version of you that believed love was about losing yourself, about shrinking to fit into someone else's world, about accepting less than what your soul divinely deserves. While you were weeping, while you felt your heart tearing apart, that same quiet intelligence was at work, performing a sacred surgery. It was meticulously removing the parts of your heart that had learned to settle, the parts that had been conditioned to believe that love was synonymous with pain, sacrifice, and self-abandonment. That relationship, in its painful ending, was your most profound teacher. It didn't show you what love is. It showed you with brutal and undeniable clarity everything that love is not. It is not meant to feel like a constant battle. It is not meant to diminish your light. It is not meant to demand the forfeiture of your soul. The agony you endured was a spiritual purification, a burning away of false beliefs about your own worth. It recalibrated your frequency, tuning you to the vibration of true, unconditional love. You emerged from that fire not hardened, but softened, not broken, but broken open. You learned the sacred art of setting boundaries, of honoring your own needs, of recognizing that the greatest love story you will ever experience is the one you have with your own divine self. That excruciating heartbreak wasn't a cosmic cruelty. It was a profound act of grace, preparing you to receive a love that could match the magnificent, whole, and awakened person you were always destined to become. It was the universe's way of making room for a love that would not require you to sacrifice any part of yourself, but would instead celebrate every facet of your being. And what of failure? The kind of failure that strips you bare, that leaves you exposed and humiliated before the world. Perhaps it was a business venture that collapsed, a creative project that was met with indifference, or a personal goal that seemed to slip through your fingers at the final moment. The shame felt like a brand, a permanent mark of your inadequacy. You replayed every misstep, every wrong turn, convinced that this failure defined you. You saw it as an ending, a final verdict on your capabilities. But the universe does not deal in final verdicts, it deals in evolution. That failure, which felt like a public execution of your dreams, was in fact a sacred initiation. It was a forced surrender, an experience designed to dismantle the most stubborn and insidious structure of all, the ego. Your ego had convinced you that your worth was tied to your achievements, that your value was measured by external validation. And so, the divine architect, in its infinite wisdom, allowed that external structure to fall, to show you that who you are is not what you do or what you achieve. In the humbling dust of your collapsed ambitions, you were forced to dig deeper. You were forced to go inward and find a source of strength that was not dependent on praise, profit, or success. You discovered a resilience you never knew you possessed, a quiet, unshakable power that had been dormant beneath the noisy clamor of your ego. You learned the profound difference between falling and being a failure. You learned that true strength is not the absence of falling, but the grace with which you rise, again and again. That humiliating failure wasn't a mark of shame, it was your warrior training. It forged within you a spiritual armor of humility, perseverance, and self-compassion. It taught you that your greatest strength is not in the castles you build, but in the foundation of self-love and inner knowing that remains steadfast even when every castle turns to sand. You were not being defeated, you were being tempered, strengthened, and prepared for a level of success and fulfillment that your previous ego-driven self could never have sustained. It was a necessary breaking to create a more resilient, authentic, and truly powerful you. We live in a world that has become utterly obsessed with the illusion of comfort. We are conditioned from birth to pursue pleasure and avoid pain at all costs. Our culture sells us a false narrative, that a happy life is a life devoid of struggle, that peace is a state of perpetual ease. We are taught to view difficulty as a sign that we have made a mistake, that we are on the wrong path, that something is fundamentally wrong with us. We numb our discomfort with endless distractions. We medicate our sorrow. We curate our lives to present a facade of effortless perfection. But this relentless pursuit of comfort is a spiritual trap. It is a siren song that lures us away from the very experiences our souls have chosen for their own evolution. The truth is, the soul does not grow in the tranquil gardens of ease. It is forged in the tumultuous fires of adversity. The greatest lie we have been told is that if something hurts, it must be wrong. What if the opposite were true? What if your pain was not a signal of your deviation from the path, but the very paving stones of the path itself? What if your struggles were not random acts of cosmic cruelty, but divinely orchestrated invitations? Invitations to shed the skin of who you thought you were, and to step into the magnificent truth of who you are destined to become. These experiences are not punishments for some forgotten cosmic crime you committed. They are not evidence of a flaw in your design. They are sacred summonses. They are life, in its infinite and sometimes terrifying wisdom, calling you forward into a greater version of yourself. When you start to perceive your challenges through this lens, everything changes. The question shifts from a despairing, "Why is this happening to me?" to an empowered, "What is this trying to awaken in me?" You cease to be a victim of your circumstances and become an active participant in your own sacred unfolding. This is the paradigm shift that turns trials into triumphs and wounds into wisdom. When you are in the midst of this divine dismantling, it feels terrifying. It feels as though you are being unraveled piece by piece. Your old strategies for navigating the world suddenly stop working. The familiar patterns of thought and behavior that once gave you a sense of security now crumble and fail you. The identity you had so carefully constructed, the mask you presented to the world, begins to dissolve, and you are left facing a terrifying void. This process is terrifying because you have mistaken that identity for your true self. You thought that mask was you. But what if it wasn't? What if that entire structure of beliefs, habits, and attachments was merely a temporary scaffolding? What if this dismantling was the most necessary and loving thing that could ever happen to you? Understand this profound truth. Life, in its mysterious and unwavering wisdom, knew exactly what needed to be stripped away. It saw the limitations you had placed upon yourself, the fears that kept you caged, the false beliefs that were dimming your divine light. And so, it began the sacred work of demolition, not to destroy you, but to liberate you. It had to clear away the debris of the old so that something far more authentic, far more powerful, and far more true could finally emerge. Imagine a sculptor with a block of marble. To the untrained eye, the process of chipping away stone looks violent and destructive. But the sculptor is not destroying the marble. They are revealing the masterpiece that has been trapped within it all along. You are that masterpiece. Your hardships, your heartbreaks, your failures, they are the chisel of the divine sculptor, chipping away everything that is not you, so that your magnificent true self can finally be revealed in all its glory. The terror you feel is the ego's resistance to its own dissolution. It clings to the familiar, to the known, even if the known is a prison. But your soul yearns for freedom. Your soul yearns for expansion. And so, you must endure the breaking to experience the breakthrough. This is not a call for toxic positivity. It is not about pretending that pain doesn't hurt or that loss isn't devastating. The pain is real. The loss is profound. The failure can feel like the end of everything you've ever known. To deny the reality of that suffering is to dishonor the very process of transformation. The agony is a crucial part of the alchemy. Pain hurts. Loss is a chasm in the heart. Failure can feel like a bottomless pit of shame. Acknowledge the pain. Honor your tears. Sit with your sorrow. These are not signs of weakness. They are testaments to your capacity to feel, to love, and to dare greatly. But buried deep beneath the surface of these raw and painful human experiences, there is a process unfolding that is so subtle, so patient, and so exquisitely intelligent that most people miss it entirely. They become so fixated on the immediate discomfort, so consumed by the surface-level drama, that they never notice the profound reconstruction that is happening simultaneously in the depths of their being. They are so focused on the storm that they fail to see the new landscape being carved out by the flood. You must learn to hold both truths at once. The truth of your human pain and the truth of your spiritual evolution. Yes, this hurts more than you thought possible. And yes, this is forging you into the person you were always meant to be. One does not negate the other. They are two sides of the same sacred coin. The caterpillar does not resist its transformation into a butterfly. It doesn't cling to its caterpillar form, mourning the loss of its legs as it dissolves into a primal soup within the chrysalis. It instinctively surrenders to the process, knowing that this apparent death is the necessary gateway to a new life, a life of flight and freedom it could not have conceived of before. It understands something we, in our human complexity, have forgotten, that the dissolution of the current form is not death, it is metamorphosis. Every single person who has ever accomplished something truly meaningful, who has ever grown beyond their original limitations, who has ever discovered a depth and strength within themselves they didn't know existed, has walked through the fire first. They did not go around it. They did not fly over it. They walked through it, and they did not emerge as the same person who entered. Think about the last time something truly challenged you to your core. Not a minor inconvenience, but a trial that tested the very fabric of who you thought you were. In that moment, you likely felt like you were being torn apart. Your identity, which you had built so carefully over a lifetime, seemed to shatter. It was terrifying because you believed that identity was the sum total of who you were. But what if that identity was just a shell? What if that breaking was the most profound act of love the universe could offer you? Life has a peculiar and perfect way of preparing us for things we cannot yet imagine. It doesn't hand us a roadmap or explain its methods. Instead, it presents us with a series of experience challenges, losses, setbacks that seem unrelated, and at times, even cruel. But these are not random events. They are building something within you. They are building capacity. They are building resilience. They are building a depth of wisdom that can only come from having navigated certain territories of the human soul. Every difficult chapter in your story was not a detour. It was the preparation. It was training for a version of yourself that your current self cannot even conceive of. It was preparation for opportunities that would have overwhelmed the person you were before. It was preparation for a life that requires the exact strength, wisdom, and depth that can only be forged in the very fires you have already walked through. The resistance to this process is where the deepest suffering lies. Most people get stuck here. They fight against the very experiences that are trying to evolve them. They spend immense energy trying to go back to who they were, trying to return to a comfort zone that life has clearly signaled they have outgrown. In doing so, they miss the entire point of what is happening. They mistake the sacred process of metamorphosis for a senseless attack. They see the chrysalis as a tomb, not a womb. But you are beginning to see with new eyes. You are starting to understand the sacred architecture of your own life. The universe is constantly inviting us to become more than we are, and that invitation rarely arrives wrapped in pretty paper with a bow. It usually shows up disguised as a problem, a crisis, a loss, or a challenge we would rather not face. The most profound transformations happen not in spite of our difficulties, but because of them. The wisdom you carry now was not downloaded from a book or learned in a classroom. It was earned. It was carved into the very marrow of your bones through lived experience. It was forged in moments that demanded more from you than you ever thought you had to give. And here is the beautiful secret within the secret. Once you begin to see this pattern, once you recognize this sacred process at play in your own life, everything changes. You stop being a victim of your circumstances, and you start being a student of them. You stop asking, why is this happening to me? And you start asking, what is this preparing me for? This shift in perspective doesn't make the challenges easier, but it makes them meaningful. And meaning has the power to transmute even the most agonizing experiences into something purposeful, something that serves not only your own growth, but your ability to serve others who are walking similar paths. Because that is the ultimate destination of this journey. The very experiences that prepared you for your own evolution also prepared you to guide others through theirs. Your deepest wounds become your greatest sources of wisdom. Your most private struggles hold the keys to helping others unlock their own potential. You weren't being broken. You were being prepared. Prepared for a life that requires exactly who you are becoming. Prepared for opportunities that need the precise combination of strength and sensitivity, wisdom and humility, courage and compassion that only your unique journey could have developed within you. The person you are becoming could not have emerged in any other way. Every twist, every turn, every setback that felt like the end of the world, they were all necessary ingredients in creating the masterpiece that is you. So stop apologizing for who you've become because of what you've been through. Stop diminishing your story because it doesn't look like everyone else's. Stop wishing you could go back to being the person you were before life asked more of you. That person served their purpose, but they were never meant to be your final form. The struggles that carved you were not accidents. The losses that hollowed you out were not cruel jokes. The failures that humbled you were not evidence of your inadequacy. They were sculpting tools in the hands of a process far more intelligent than your fear-based mind could ever comprehend. You are one of these people, whether you recognize it yet or not. You have walked the path. You have endured the fire, and now you are ready. The preparation is almost complete. The question now is not whether you will survive what's coming. The question is whether you will recognize the opportunities that require the magnificent being you have become. They are coming. They are already here. And finally, you are ready for them.